Welcome back. We are WNST AM 1570 Towson, Baltimore. Baltimore Positive. We got some 10 times the cash tickets. We're giving these away. We're Koco's. We're live. Anything could go wrong. You never even know what's going to happen. Luke might even show up in Maryland and be a part of things here. Luke, you're on mic 3. Go for it, man. What's going on? How are you?
I'm good. Where's the food, though? I was promised food.
Let's go. Some food. No. Just in time for me to talk.
Yeah, exactly.
She has great French fries. I'm looking at the French
fries. It looks great. Oh, my goodness. Been waiting for this all day.
I smell the shrimp. What's going on, man?
Not much.
You walked as a madhouse in here.
I was just saying, normally I'm so accustomed now at this point to just be talking to you on a screen and, not worried about my internet connection and all those different things that can go wrong.
All the things I'm worried about today.
Right. But it's nice to be sitting here next to you, and especially on the heels of
You've never been happy to see me. How is it even possible?
A crazy last 10 days. A lot of bad, but also a lot of good. A lot of excitement
I'm only
for the
focused
future.
on the good. I'm Baltimore Positive.
Well, hey,
I'm thinking about the positive.
I'm wearing the sweatshirt today,
right.
so there you go.
I want those shrimp. Mars, you can give me the shrimp. I mean, just keep the drinks away from him, especially. He's seen – you want to tell her what happened in New York 10 years ago?
I thought you were accusing me of being the one to spill the drink.
Well, that was John Harbaugh.
That was John Harbaugh. That's true.
That's true. I just need napkins is all I need. Luke, you've never been to Koco's, have you?
I have not. I've been by here. I've heard about it for years and looking forward to trying the crab cake I've heard so much about.
Anybody that wants to come by right now and get a piece of this for the Maryland Food Bank, and if you're watching on tape, good for you too. You can come anytime you want and donate. This is all going to St. Francis of Assisi local church. I'm going to give you a chance to talk about Deacon Jones too, because you and I are going to get at it today because we're doing good causes and you're a good man. You're a man of faith, the real deal. I've met a lot of real deal people the last couple of days doing unbelievable work in unbelievable ways, whether it's missions, churches, community groups, feeding people. The Maryland Food Bank, hunger's a real thing. A lot of people go to bed hungry. My dad was one of those people. I'm re-releasing the book on my father. Did you ever read that in 06 or at any point?
I read parts of it.
When I did Free the Birds, I wrote a book saying why I did it, thinking nobody would ever think I'm a jackass. Like people are going to read something. But nonetheless, there is a book. I wrote 19 chapters of my love of my father, my love of baseball in the summer of 2006 when I did Free the Birds. It wasn't some jerk thing I did. So the book, I'm going to re-release it on my father's birthday. It's March 5th.
Cool.
March 5th, I'm going to re-release the Peter Principles once a day. And I'm not Peter Principles, the book of my dad. I'm going to re-release the Peter Principles because people have real misinformation. You know what I mean? Like, and I guess I should bring this up with you because, like, you're young but you're old now, right? I said to my son yesterday.
I finally graduated from being the guy that you had socks older than me.
Right.
I think that's what you said famously.
2008.
One of the first times we met.
Right, exactly.
And now I'm the young guy who's
when
a
I see
little
those
old
pictures
now.
of you, I did have socks older than you. You were like, a youngin' when I met you.
Yeah.
So, all right, I would just say this thing happens. And people are in a little bit of disbelief, and I'm one of those guys, like, trying to navigate it. Have I ever said to you at any point in our friendship, our relationship, our employment status, whatever the hell we are, that even on a flight, even after 5 drinks, which you've been with me when I've been smoked up more than most people on Super Bowl trips and whatnot, that I would say to you, one day I'm going to get back in the press box. One day somebody else. I stopped thinking about that. I have given up. You sit in the press box and I don't. I don't know if it's because you're Caucasian and I'm Hispanic, or you're nice and I'm not, or they think you're a professional, think I don't know. I don't talk to Greg Bader. I've never met Jennifer, whatever her name is. So any of that, like, it took me 48 hours. On Thursday night, I was home alone. My wife went to yoga and I sat at home, and it just occurred to me, like, if I might be able to go back and do my job again. And I'd never really thought about that. And for me, it's 30 years of all of this, that there's a real disbelief that, you know, like, really. Until Corbin shows up, you know what I mean? But I'm going to eat some shrimp and you talk a while.
Yeah, I mean, piggybacking off of what you just said, I mean, I was 10 years old when Peter Angelos bought the Orioles. I was 10. I'm 40 now. I mean, it's been 30 years. You think about the history of the franchise from 1954 through the end of 1993, and what it's been in the 30 years since, I mean, it's night and day. And we don't need to belabor the point too much because we've all lived it, we've all experienced it, or in the case of someone like me, read about the glory days, and watched old videos and heard stories from my father and my mother and my grandparents.
You're 41.
I'm 40.
40.
Yeah.
Barry's 39. I had a reporter from the Banner call me. I'm not going to give him up, but you've seen his name. He was a former Sun reporter. I don't know him. I know the name. And I've known the name a long time. So I really didn't know anything about this person to know their age. And they called me last week, and I literally was at the Apple store, By the way, you like the bright, shiny object?
I do.
Isn't that sexy?
I was going to say, the board is, man, that is new age right there. That's not what I'm used to seeing.
You could have spent 3 nights at the Luxor this week for what I spent on the board, buddy. And I'm about to kill these coconut shrimp, which are
They look great.
They're so good,
They look
man.
great.
But I just want to say this, and I'll let you get after it. But reporter calls me, and I'm on the phone a couple of minutes with him, and Chris Corman is the sports editor at the paper, and he kind of told me one of my guys is going to call you, and I recognized the name, and I didn't know if this person's 55 or 20, but I knew they'd been around a long time, and I have respect for this person, but I'm like, Friday morning, I'm at the Apple store, I'm getting a call, I'm trying to be polite, and I said to him, do you want background or do you want a quote? What are you looking for here? You know what I mean? Because if you really want to learn, I wrote a book on all of this.
Right.
And it's better than my recollection of the wacky-ish that went on. Just crazy stories in the Peter Principles. Crazy. And all of it documented and sourced from newspapers and period. It was real stuff that was happening, stuff that I was in Johnny Oates' office when he confided in all of us that the owner was calling down and telling him to play Leo Gomez. You know what I mean? Like, crazy stuff that happened. Davey Johnson, just Frank Wren calling me and telling me how he was fired and telling me that he thought they were like the devil's advocate. I mean, just crazy stuff. Then they screw me on 30 grand, assault me with the bird, Mike Flannery. I could go on and on and on with the wackiness of it. And I'm doing this to the poor guy on the phone, right? Where the F do you want me to start? I wrote a book.
Right.
Do you want a quote or do you want to read the book? And he said, this is what he said to me. He said, well, when Peter bought the team, he was really popular in the beginning. And I'm like, no, he wasn't. Like, no, you're changing history here. And the first thing I said to him is, he bought the team in August of 93. There was a strike. There was no baseball. He took the side of the union, which ended everything with his partners pretty much forever, right? And Cal Streak, he used Cal Streak as a wedge to say we're not going to.
He was popular for that, though, in the fans' eyes. Whether they were wrong or misguided, but
it was really a minute and a half, right? So if you're asking if he had a shot, and this comes from you being a 40-year-old guy, and this is at the point where the guy said the same thing to me. And I said, how old are you? And I kind of came off as a dick, and I didn't want to be. And he said, I'm 38. Like I was being the get off my lawn, like you could not possibly know. And I said, listen, I don't want to be a jerk, but if you were 10 years old when this happened, I'm not telling you something to make things up or because I did Free the Birds. I'm giving you facts. And I said, September 6, 1995. That was Cal Ripken's night. He said, yeah. He said, I was a kid. Okay. He was booed off the field that night. He had owned the team 20. You can go back. I promise you, I've watched it 100 times.
I think it was because he talked for 20 minutes.
He talked for 14 minutes. And Frank
I don't think
Robinson,
he was booed coming on the field. I think it was like, dude, get out of the way.
He never, ever took a public face as the owner of the Baltimore Orioles ever again. He never held a press conference. He did me after that. He did my show in March of '97, so I shouldn't say he never he did 2 hours of drinking with me, and you can go listen to that, right? But what I'm saying is there are all these fallacies. I've had people tell me he saved the team for the city. That's just a lie.
Yeah.
That's just a lie. And I don't want that written because it's not true. There are good things you could say about him. That's not one of them.
Right.
It's not true.
I will say this, and I don't say this from my own perspective, but I remember the perspectives of my grandparents and my father. The part about him saving baseball in Baltimore is bunk. The stadium had already been built. The lease through 2022 had been signed, late in 1992, a year before he bought the team. So I totally agree with you on that. I do think the perception of him being local was something that fans invited after EBW in the 80s, and with Eli Jacobs being a New Yorker who had zero interest in making the team great. So I do think the element of local ownership was appealing and popular initially. I do think that first off season when they signed Rafael Palmeiro and make some of the moves they made, but you're right, it was very, very short-lived. There's no question about that. And even through high payrolls and
he was the Marylander of the year in 1994,
right?
Because John Stedman
Right.
just bought his BS. I mean, I don't know what to say.
Right.
And it all fell apart. But by then, he had already kneecapped Lucchino, screwed over DeWitt.
Sure.
Hired and fired Phil Regan, turned down John. I mean, I wrote a book on this, so I can go through it forever. But, like, his legacy is his legacy, and let's not make stuff up. And that's what I said to the reporter. I said to the reporter, no offense, dude, if you're 38, you better take what I'm saying as gospel because I've studied this. You're talking to somebody that knows more about this than anyone. I lived it. I lived it in full color for 32 years. I had a real press pass for 21 years. I asked questions. I was treated like garbage. We promoted them. They didn't pay their bill. And I got really pissed off, and I'm still pissed off.
Well, but again, I wanted to go back and offer perspective as an outsider, and with parents and grandparents who were outsiders as fans, there was appeal to it initially. And certainly the way that they bought free agents and bringing in Pat Gillick and signing Roberto Alomar and there was popularity to that. There's no question. I think you mentioned the night of the streak. Certainly that was a bad look. I don't care how popular you are as an owner. There's no reason for you to be speaking that long when it's someone else's night. I mean, it's just plain and simple. But for me, and this is where I was 13 at the time, the first major black mark for me that really hit me big time. And look, I didn't have anything against Johnny Oates, but I wasn't a major Johnny Oates fan as him as a manager, not even speaking about his impeccable character or anything like that. But for me, it was John Miller. John Miller was my generation's Chuck Thompson. And for him to be jettisoned, left, not welcome back, however you want to, whatever semantics you want to use, the fact that
shat upon,
he was rapidly becoming an institution for a generation that only knew Chuck Thompson in semi-retirement, doing Sunday games, things of that nature, which was great. And I love Chuck, but John Miller was my generation's guy. And that for me was the first, like, why is this happening? Why are you doing that? Why? This seems so simple. And then Davey Johnson, and the list goes on and on after that we don't need to rehash because we said at the top of our conversation we're going to be positive today. So I don't want to rehash too much of this. We've all lived it, but I'm in agreement with you. The initial perception, I will say, was positive because he was local ownership after EBW in the 80s and Washington and losing the Colts and all the fear there, and Eli Jacobs being what he was, which was a zero. Bankrupt. Had no interest in making the team any better. So when Peter came in, when they spent money, there was excitement about that. But yes, that was very fleeting. It was very apparent very quickly that things were turning south and not going to be what that initial optimism was that first year or two.
Luke's here. We're at Koco's. Dude, grab one of those, and I'll talk for a minute. And that's a raspberry jalapeno. So not kicky. 1 to 10, it's a 2 on a spice. Get a napkin. You're going to need it, dude. So people are bringing stuff by here. I mean, people are coming in and out all day long. Please stop by. We're here till 5. Rasig's going to be here a little later. Can't wait for you and Rasig to throw back. You've only met Rasig once or twice? Like, we're literally?
That's true. That is really good, by the way. It's delicious.
They ain't having this on Radio Row in Vegas right now.
Very
I promise
true.
you they're not.
Very true.
You asked me what I was going to do back in October. I told you I was going to have an idea.
There you go.
You see the food bank piling up over there, so we got things happening.
It's great.
All right. This is your first chance. It's been a week since, we're thinking about this or whatever. And I ran everybody through the realities last week. Now we're learning, like, John Angelos refused to wear Oriole logos, and all this dirt's coming out from the Wall Street Journal and weird stuff about him. You're a pragmatist. You're as level-headed as any human I've ever met. You love baseball more than anybody I know. What do you expect to happen? I don't mean like on the field, 104 wins or how much more money they're going to spend. what's your expectation? And you're a real journalist, and I'm a fake one for now. Press conferences, getting this done. How would you like to see this handled over the first year, let's say? Not in regard to baseball decisions, because they're going to spend money.
Yeah.
They have a baseball guy. They need to re-engage with people.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to eat the rest of these shrimp and let you. There's a crab cake with your name on it over there, so I'm not going to go long. But for me, I don't know what the thing's going to be about putting the hat back and buying an actual ticket and going down there and whether they're going to give me a seat next to you or across from you. Or for me and my family, what I do, if they reach to me and say, "Of course you're a media member, just come. We don't need to have a seance. We don't need to. You don't need to prove your pass will be left next to Luke's pass, and come opening day and enjoy yourself and cover the team, meet the manager, come down to Sarasota, whatever it is, right?"
Mm-hmm.
I will be able to go out on the airways for the first time in the history of WNST, really. I've owned it since '98, and have a heart about it. My heart is way open to changing. Anybody that's known me knows how much I've changed as a person, but I don't need my ass kissed, and I don't feel like I should. I feel like if I came back and could be normal about it, it's going to take an adjustment period for me to root for him, cheer for him, know him, be there, experience the new world. But that's me. What needs to happen for you?
I mean, look, it's tough because I do focus so much on what's happening on the field, and they are in a good position now that they can capitalize on this. They are just entering this, and they won 101 games last year, but this isn't ownership or change of ownership in concurrence with being at the beginning of this rebuild where no one wants to come out. I mean, you could say, okay, great, it's good, better ownership, optimism long term, but in the meantime, you're still watching really lousy baseball for 3 or 4 years.
Somebody put their lineup up from 3 years ago. It's unbelievable.
Oh, it's crazy.
The
right?
whatever that was.
Jesus Sucre, Rio Ruiz. I mean, it's amazing. Let alone going back to 14 straight years of losing, way back, before Buck and Duquette even. So. Yeah, so they have that going for them right off the bat. But, I mean, you've talked about this a lot, and we've talked about this a lot, and there are challenges to this that didn't exist 15 years ago or certainly 30 or 50 years ago. But they need to recruit people. And I've said this over and over, and I'm not going to deviate from that now. Winning is still the best way to do that, to watch a winning product, but they need to recruit people. They have to put a good team in place as far as new people and, deciding who amongst the incumbents are going to stay and all that, because there are good people that work in the organization. I know them. But there's a lot of change that is warranted and overdue, quite frankly. They have to build relationships with businesses, with their fan base. I mean, to your point, media, and to try to grow something that's great. I'm not going to sit here and try to act like I have all the answers from all the stuff that's off the field, but you've got to recruit people. We've talked about this a lot with, the challenges the Ravens have faced over the last 7, 8, 9 years compared to the first 20 years of existence where, they didn't have to sell tickets. They didn't have to take out
Let me
ads.
ask you this. And you don't talk about, this is a shoot interview. You're a wrestling guy. Chad Steele's not listening. Greg Bader's not. How are you treated? And how would you feel about being a fan again and buying tickets and being I didn't like Marlon Humphrey treating me like garbage.
Yeah,
I didn't like that. I didn't like that. As a season ticket holder, I'm in there. I'm there 10 minutes a week or whatever I am. You can't be pleasant. I'm a fan. I'm a stakeholder. I bought tickets. Right. I'm a citizen. I was here before you got here. I'll be here when you're gone. If you just consider me media scum because that's the door I walk through, that's a really shitty door, dude. And that's the way the Angelos family operated for 30 years. The Bisciotti family's operating that way lately because we're here. This is evidence number one that I'm eating delicious and very grateful to be eating coconut shrimp. But I should not be here. You and I should be on Radio Row with Brian Billick and Brian Baldinger and everybody else. I mean, really, we should be. You've dedicated to that. I've dedicated to that. But how you get treated and how I've been treated long before I was thrown out, just long before I brought this up with management, with Dick Cass, and I said, and now they have $10 tickets in December when they're 9-2, and the Orioles played a clinch game in front of 26,000 people. You know what I mean? So that's where the base is, right? That's where the the entry point is for the Rubenstein Group. For me, I'm going to completely tear down my heart and my soul and get my jersey out and just see what they are.
Yeah.
I want to see something that looks
Clean
and feels different than what I've seen from Steve Bisciotti, which has been deteriorating from the minute Ray Rice punched his wife in the elevator. Before that, really the moment Harbaugh showed up, it became a different place in a lot of ways. But I would say, as a stakeholder, as a season ticket holder, I want to go back and love baseball. My last name's Aparicio. People think I hate the Orioles all these years. I hated the way I was treated. And I think it's really important that they treat not just me, everybody well. Because everybody's got a skid mark on their back about something that's happened with this baseball team. Whether just losing or down the line to how you feel about John Miller or Mike Flanagan or anything that you could pin on it, or a cold hot dog one night or whatever you're pissed off about, that you can wash that out of your soul. And I'm going to be the advocate for that, to say I'm giving these people not a chance, but they need to be nice it needs to feel different right away. It really does.
It does. And I think one of the big things, and look, I haven't worked in customer relations, and I'm not going to speak out of turn on that because I don't have any experience doing that. I mean, I could give you ideas that I've heard from other people, but we've talked a lot about TV. Everything you just mentioned, look, sports more and more, it's a TV product. It's a TV-driven product. We're seeing that more and more, to the point now where we're starting to see in some stadia smaller capacities. And, okay, people will say, well, the cities are small, whatever. People are watching it on TV. The average baseball fan watches way more on TV than in person in a season.
Well,
I mean,
one
that's
thing
obvious.
they've done universally, they fixed the game. I mean, it's shorter. It's just a better game than it was 3 years ago.
But I think that would, if you're talking about things for a new ownership group to figure out, it's what is television going to look like. And look, that's not unique to the Orioles. That's all 30 teams right now are trying to figure out what this is going to look like in 2024, but more importantly in 2029 and beyond, because it is changing. And we're even seeing streaming. I mean, the deal that came out with Fox, ESPN, and what was it, Warner? I think there's going to be sounds like a streaming super package that comes out, which, by the way, sounds like cable, so it's almost like we're going full circle in some
that's
ways.
all they know.
But the point is, I think if you want to talk about a way right off the bat to start connecting with your fans, is make your product more available. And we've talked about that, from figuring out the streaming aspect. They're going to have to figure out Masson. What's this going to look like? People have talked about Monumental and Leonsis. Do they sell what? I mean, who knows? I don't know, but it has to be better and way better than it's been, because one, it's not profitable for them in the way that it used to be, obviously, and two, you are missing out on reaching your audience, reaching new fans, reaching your fan base.
If I want to drive to Ocean City on a Friday night at 7:30 in the back seat and watch the game,
I should be able to do that on my phone in this day and age. And look, I'm not asking for you to give it away for free, but make it accessible that it's easy for me to do it. Don't make it where I have to jump through hoops, to borrow my brother-in-law's password for this service because I don't have that, and he has to borrow mine for this service.
Well, then they broke the law. I mean, I get emails all the time.
Sure.
If you were a subscriber to Major League Baseball, there's a class action lawsuit.
Sure.
I mean,
Sure.
they've done nefarious-ish.
So I think, I think that's going to be such a. Right off the bat for a new ownership group, what are these renovations going to look like? I mean, the lease, it's there, right? But they've got to figure out what exactly it's going to look like, and they have to execute it. That's a major undertaking that you hope a new ownership group will have some vision as far as what's going to be best, right? It's not their money, it's the state's money.
Hold on, I keep saying, what's the idea?
Yeah, exactly.
What's the idea?
So you hope there's vision there.
What's the gold ring we're reaching for?
You hope there's vision
ring
there. You hope there's vision with TV and how that's going to look, because, again, that is a major challenge for every market at this point in time, and especially in a sport like baseball where you have 162 games of product to sell. So there's those things. They have to connect with businesses, local businesses in the community, and first and foremost, because at the end of the day, the product has no value if fans aren't going to consume, including sponsors aren't going to want to do business with you if fans aren't consuming and you're not putting eyeballs on their products or on their business name, whatever it might be. They've got to connect. So, you've got to recruit people. And again, they've got a head start here with how this team has performed the last couple years. It is trending in a better direction, and has been since, midway through 2022. But it's a long, long, long way to go. So it's excitement. There's so much excitement, so much optimism. As I wrote at BaltimorePositive.com last week, it's just a sense of raising the bar of expectations. And that was even before they acquired Corbin Burns 2 days later. But, you're allowing yourself to think about this thing without having a ceiling on it anymore. And I don't mean
we've
that...
had 30 years that we can't have nice things.
Right. I don't mean that in the sense that they're going to become the Dodgers and they're going to have a $350 million payroll. But if they're run well and they recruit people the way they need to and businesses support them... and
they should be able to pay Gunnar
There's
Henderson.
no reason they... I've said to you over and over for a couple years now, there's no reason they can't aspire to be like the St. Louis Cardinals, who've won 2 World Series, 4 pennants, and they've been in the playoffs, I think it's 17 times since the turn of the century. That's a pretty good profile, is it not? So, and that is not a market that is drastically bigger than Baltimore. I'm not saying it's exactly the same, but the point is it can be done if you have good people running it and you're committed to doing it the right way. You have to make smart decisions. As I've said, don't just spend money, spend it wisely. Spend it to keep your homegrown talent that you're drafting and developing. Be a player in the international market, which they just opened their academy in the Dominican. They've made progress. So this isn't something that's starting from scratch like it was on the baseball side 5 years ago. So they're at an advantage in that way. But boy, they need to hit the ground running. There's no question about it because you don't want this momentum to stall. They've got some momentum here. People are excited. One thing that I was unhappy to see, but this isn't, it's going to take some time here. The new ownership group's not in place yet. It's not official yet, knock on wood. It's still the Angelos family, and it's still Major League Baseball that has to approve this. But I would have loved to have seen them bring Corbin Burns, and even if it's he flies in at 10 a.m., have a press conference at the ballpark, video, photos of him on the mound at Camden Yards. They didn't do that. They just did a Zoom. And I get it. It's close to spring training.
They flew Aubrey Huff in when they signed.
Right. Well,
I was there that night.
Look, Zooms are great from a timeliness standpoint for media purposes, but that was a situation right there to spike the ball and recruit people and show people Corbin Burns wearing his number 39 Orioles jersey on the mound, even if there was snow in the background. I know there's not.
And do your hot stove show on the club level and have people come down and wave to them.
So there's an example right there of whoever makes that call for them right now. It's not the new regime yet. But in the future, there is a situation where, boy, that was a chance to recruit people. People are already excited, but show that. Don't do a Zoom at 4 o'clock just to appease the media, which, look, was great for media purposes, but got no traction from a fan standpoint as opposed to,
you got to show up. You got to show up.
Flat out say, right? Look, man, we got you on a 10 a.m. flight, press conferences at 1. We're going to take you to a best lunch in town, best at Koco's. We're going to get you a Koco's crab cake, and you'll be home by 8 o'clock. They should have done that. And I get it. It's 10 days before spring training. But if you really sold him on it and you gave him some bells and whistles, he would have done it, I'm sure. I don't think he was going to, I don't think this is a case where he's going to get in on the bad side of the organization that just traded for him.
But he didn't have to come in and meet the owner.
So, right, well, sure. But that right there, and I don't want to harp on that too much because it's not the new ownership group yet.
But this is your first scene. You've seen a missed opportunity that could become a better.
This is an example of what they need to get better with. And I think they will, because I think you look at some of the names involved with this new ownership group. I think, we joked about this last week with Cal, and I think you joked about it being eyewash. Cal has been very careful. If there's something you could say about Cal Ripken beyond the fact that he's a Hall of Fame baseball player, he has been so careful about perception and how people look at him and view him. There's an example right there of you get Corbin Burns, which is this amazing trade. I love this trade for them. I love their rotation with him at the top. Spike the ball a little more. This is one of those things to make a big deal out of because I think your fan base was that excited, and I just think it was a missed opportunity. It's not a crippling mistake or anything like that, but in the long-term sense, there's an example of the kind of things you want to be able to do to recruit new fans and get people excited and engaged in your product in a way that, frankly, they haven't been in a very, very long time.
Mike Resigliano will be here. Luke Jones is here. We're talking sports this afternoon, like kind of old school. We're live. We're at Koco's Pub. We're down in Lauraville. We're doing it for the Maryland Food Bank. Stop by. It is a cup of soup or bowl. We're calling it Crab Cake Row. It's day 3. I just passed the halfway mark at 1 o'clock. When you came on, I'm halfway home.
Still going strong.
Hour 21. I'm feeling my stamina, you know, and our friends at Window Nation, 866-90 Nation, remind you that it's 0% financing for 5 years. I'm going to get doors this year. I did windows 2 years ago. It's a great thing. It's maybe much more comfortable. It'll make you more comfortable. I can speak for that. Also, our friends at Jiffy Lube Multi-Care, I had my oil changed a couple weeks ago up at the York Road location. That was fantastic. And Royal Farms and Wise, I brought my Wise Markets scoop, so Luke can give you the scoop on the Corbin. You like that? The
I like
scoop
it.
on the Corbin Burns. Luke and I are like Bernie Taupin and Elton John. We only get in the same room together like once or twice a year to write a song. So I got him crab cakes and coconut shrimp. The minute I can get myself to start talking, him to shut up, Rasig to show up. Rasig's going to be here soon, and we're going to do an hour like sort of crosstalk. Luke doesn't know Rasig well, and Rasig doesn't know Luke, but Rasig listens to Luke for 15 years. So this will be fun. Come by, bring some canned goods. I got like coconut shrimp in my teeth. It's terrible. I said, well, I don't eat when I do the show. I'll bite my tongue off. I see whole black beans. I see classic baked beans. I see peas and carrots. I see mac and cheese. I see saltines. I see sugar.
I see soup.
I see lots of tomato soup. I see tomato soup.
Tomato soup, chunky soup,
we had
all
chicken
kinds
and
of soup.
stars yesterday. Bring some stuff out for the Maryland Food Bank. It's very, very simple. You bring that, we give you a free cup of soup or bowl of soup, and they have Maryland crab and cream of crab. Are you a 50-50 guy? Have you done that?
I am. We talked about this last week.
You're a 50-50 guy.
For years, I thought that sounded, for lack of a better term, gross.
They have really good soup
I
here,
tried it. The 50-50,
really good, yeah.
it's a game changer. I love it.
The cream of crab specifically here is really memorable.
Nice.
So if you just want to try one or the other, I would tell you try the cream of crab here because it's really good. I think I love Maryland crab and there's no why it's good, but the cream of crab to me, if I had to pick one here, I would do that. But I like the mix here because I do like the cream so much. Coconut shrimp are my thing. They got great burgers here and colossal crab cakes. 11. I did see the lunch. They do a lunch crab cake here now. I didn't even talk to Marcel about that, but they do us like a smaller crab cake. I may take a little extra break before Rasig gets here, and I'm getting thirsty, and I haven't had a beer all week, and I deserve it. Poor JR, dude. Oh, my God, poor JR, our engineer. Giving a shout-out to JR. Things are working. We are 4 hours into today, almost 5 hours into today. Things have held up. But this live radio thing, Luke, brings out the ugly in me. It brings out the nasty in me. It does. It brings out the spooky in me. All right, back for more. Luke's here. I'm here. We're all here. We're giving out Maryland lottery tickets at 10 times the cash. We got these as well. So come on by. They're free. We're giving them out, and we're giving out super free. And Marcella has a deal that if you give a $25 cash donation, she will give you a $25 gift card and a cup of Super Bowl. I am Nestor. He is Luke. We are not in Las Vegas, but we're making the best of it.